Good afternoon. It's a rainy afternoon, um, mid-November. They have a cycle. They like to sing. There's it's a nice environment. It's a beautiful world that we live in, and what the videos that I've had up until now have been explaining quantum physics, quantum reality, and that sort of thing. If we think about string theory, and there are up to 11 different dimensions in string theory, and that is something that allows us to ponder about other perceptions, other versions, continuities, other dimensions, literally, but in other aspects. We look at dimensions such as up, down, left, right. We also see dimensions in time, forward and backward in time. So all of those things allow us to have a different perspective on all these different things. So things have a level of understanding on what you see with them. An ant sees something very different than what an eagle sees. Okay, and so one of the things about my channel, the Pena Perspective, is trying to expand that perspective and see it from more of a, I don't want to say global, but an overarching form or version. In other words, yes, you need to study the bark on the trunk of a tree because you can understand the different algae that grow on different sides, and there is legitimacy to that. That's the specificity that science likes to get into the nitty-gritty of absolutely everything. So they focus and specialize and go microscopic into each one of those different elements of it. And that famous saying that you can't see the forest for the trees because you're focusing on the trees, on the individual bark of the trees. Because the more specialized we become, the more we focus our attention, we lose focus on everything else and how all those things interact. Now, like I usually say, now they're getting into a fight. That's a whole other story. And see, that's the thing. Whenever we see different realities and different understandings of them, we can alter our behavior in order to adapt to that. There's, for example, sorry, there was a truck going by, and that's just too much noise. But anyway, whenever we look at things from different perspectives, different profundity, we can see superficiality of things, or we can see the underlying causes or principles behind them, and then we can start seeing thought patterns and processes and everything else. And in the book, I went through, or I'm going through, the quantum mechanics of things and how that comes in through Newtonian physics and Einsteinian relativism and our understanding of space-time as it is today, getting into quantum theory and everything else. That's on one aspect. I've gone through in short form the biological aspects and the chemical and then biological aspects of the transfer of energy, how energy flows through a system, what is energy, and how it can be expanded in many different ways. The larger levels of energy that we get into, that energy is transferred in different ways. For example, we got sugars and carbohydrates and everything else in the body that are transferred. But we also have hormones, and many of them that act in many different ways and have different reactions within the body for a specific reason. Those are programmed by the brain for specific activities and specific needs that the survival of the human species actually has. Now, that is one aspect of it. Now we get into further, how does that energy propagate? And I really hadn't delved into this in my book yet, because they're muddy waters still, because we get into the sociological effects and the individual psychological effects as well, which is why I want to now focus a little bit more on psychology personally, so I can get a better grasp on the individual programming of the brain. That's a whole nother mess. Why? Because we get into existence itself, what we have to do, individually do, what we can do to make the world a better place, how we can interact with others, how we can extend a hand and allow others to be able to grow. And so many times we have to, like they say, hit rock bottom before you can come back up, but you don't necessarily have to hit rock bottom. Somebody can actually show you what rock bottom is and allows you to climb out. For that, you need a helping hand. And a hand was extended to me a long time ago my father picked me up and he said, all right, let's go. Well, there's this destiny, this past, this mission that I would like you to go down. So, yeah, I've gone down some dark roads in my past in order to find people who had lost the light and a way that I could get to the message to a different level of understanding and allow people to expand their understanding and elevate their understanding of the world around them, their interaction with it, and act and react in a higher aspect than what they were used to. But that's a whole nother story. Getting back to the dimensionality of it and sociological effects going beyond psychology. So the progression of the book is that it's the scientific through the body and our understanding, our materialist, our existential understanding of what life is the way we have it. Why? Because according to that old Asian phrase, at the end of science you'll find religion, and at the end of religion you will find science. They're different perspectives of the same reality that we live in. And for the last, 8 months, I've been focused on the spiritual aspects of that perception of them. You can follow my works. I've placed many of them on my channel as well. Follow those along. That there are seeds throughout all of that, and the purpose for those seeds is specifically to reach those who want to be reached or calling out to be reached. There's this metaphysical aspect to reality that people don't necessarily understand. They will put things down into what we consider to be the existential universe, what we do in this reality, and you gain as much as you can, and you try and game the system as much as you can, and the richest man wins, right? That's not necessarily the battle that we're in. That's not what my book's about. The book itself, the universe and you, why both matter. Because as I've explained before, but it's in the introduction of the book. That one's been written like 50 times already. But anyway, thing is, there was this philosopher that once an arrogant man came up to him and said, "Do you know who I am?" And he said, "Do you know who you are? You are one person in a country with 200 million in on a planet with 7 point, or what are we at now, billion people in around a star that's one in a billion stars within our galaxy with billions of galaxies. So in reality, who the fuck are you?" When we take that aspect, that belittles existence itself. So that begs the question, why the fuck are we here? If we're insignificant, then you can do anything you want and you can be anything you want, that it's going to absolutely matter. It's not going to matter because it doesn't fucking matter what you do. You are insignificant. That is the reason why people throw themselves off the top of a goddamn roof. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. Why? Because you have to love you first. And that's the essence of my book. That's the heart and soul of why I wanted to write this thing. And it's hard to write because I don't know who my audience is, who wants to listen, who's willing to listen, who's whatever. That's why, if you have any questions, comments, or anything else, put them in the comments below this video, please. I make my videos based on questions that people ask me about reality and everything else. Pasquale asked me about what I thought about energy, what I thought energy was, and so I did my best to explain my perception of what energy is and how those things happen. See, so within that, our interactions with others, a sociological effect that we have. For example, you love yourself. If you don't love you, nobody's going to love you. So you love yourself and you strengthen yourself and you make yourself as strong as you can. Why? Because the objective is to help others. So you make yourself strong, not so you can belittle, destroy, or because that's what was done in the beginning. The children of the fallen ones, the giants, that's what they did. It was their fucking world, their life. Okay, the Achilles, the Hercules of the world. Legends and myths written about them. And the giants that would grab people and just eat them because they were out of food. those realities, that's something to where I'm powerful and strong and I'm going to do whatever I please. Ha, ha, ha. Come here, ant. That reality is the reason why God had to flood the world, to get rid of that essence. But the multidimensionality of existence means that they're no longer physically, tangibly here, but they are spiritually still here, and they can have an effect. People don't believe that. Fine, that's your fucking problem. They exist. They influence. They are those. You remember those old cartoons that nobody actually believes in anymore, and they laugh at it and everything else. Why? Because that's the essence of the adversary, is to belittle things. You know, a little red guy with horns and a tail going, hey, do this, do that. And then you got this guy in robes and angel wings going, I don't think you should. That sort of thing. Yeah, those voices are real. Okay, that's a psychological aspect, and that is the id and the super id arguing with the it, whatever. You want to interpret them in any different fashion. There's the Freudian form. There's you know, because I don't have a degree in psychology doesn't mean I don't know about that shit. Because anything that I like, I study. And whenever I study, I do the best, because that's what's always been expected of me. So, again, apologize. 40 years of just delving into anything and everything well beyond of what any educational system could or would be able to teach me. And now the internet has made that basically irrelevant, because anybody can search up anything and find out everything that I've learned over 35 years in 5 minutes. Use DuckDuckGo. You'll find 20,000 answers. Okay. Mine were from encyclopedias, dictionaries, books in different libraries in different cities around the world. To where my dad wanted to find me when I was at school. I wasn't playing soccer with my other friends. When he went up to my friends, he asked him, yeah, where's Michael? Oh, he's in the library. My dad always tells that story, and a tear came down my eye when I heard that. And then I went in there and I saw my son sitting on the carpet reading a book. Yeah. Later on, I decided to play football just to make sure that, nobody thought that I was a fucking worthless little geek that just liked to sit and read. So, but it has its effect. And like I said in the very first video, what is all this information worth if it just dies with me? Why is it gonna? Why am I? Yeah, we all die, and I've got lots of bad fucking habits, and hey, I'd like people to know what I know. Now, am I going to be talking bullshit to everybody all the time? I'm going to be speaking from my heart and as honestly as I absolutely can. Okay. So the effects that we have sociologically is the next aspect that I'll be pivoting the channel towards, because I always loved sociology and economics when I was in high school and college and everything else. So the aspects of how that's sort of a continuation of the flow of energy through the system. Okay, so we got the chemical flow of energy that we have that is turned into the biological flow of energy that increases the dimensionality of the way that the energy can influence in others. Okay, not just energy, but nutrients and everything else is also a form of energy. It's structural energy that's put into there. And we can follow that through, even through the brain and the debates that we have in there, in order to make sure that what comes out of our mouths or the actions of our fingers have a certain purpose. That's a CPU of the thing. There will be others that argue still that is the television set, and it's receiving the information from your higher consciousness, which is actually outside of you. So those are things that we can actually talk about later on, and if people are interested in that as well. I mean, auras, and I personally believe that this physical self is the interference pattern of our soul with the three-dimensional or four-dimensional reality in which we are inserted in this holographic reality. Okay, but the continuation of the energy flows, you have the person, and then what the influence of that person is on other people, and that is the communities, the family, the friends that you have. You're strong enough in yourself to take care of yourself, and you can take care of others, and you can help others. And then you go to the next person and you're going, okay, I've got some fish and tomatoes that I'm growing here on my plane. Do you have like I don't know, bartering system? But everybody helps each other out, communities. And this particular time is when community is strongest, because the globalist dominating adversarial power, which denigrates and destroys the individual, we become numbers. Where we become human beings again, outside of the numbers of the system, is by building communities. And the identity and the ability to help one another in that community is what we do. It's how kinship started. The family, the different families were stronger than other families, but they helped other families versus destroy other families. Otherwise, people gang up on them and they're screwed. That's also the sociological effect. And then we go through history and archaeology and everything else, and we find out how those societies evolved and grew and became the city-states and nations and everything else, and how things tend to be, which is why the Bible talks about in the end it's going to be one ruler, one religion, one economy throughout the entire planet, because that's the natural the natural evolution of the process, and that's what everything's tending towards. What that does, that denigrates the individual. The individual no longer matters. The individual no longer exists. And if that's the case, existential the existential perception of the reality in which we live will lead many people to um, do things to themselves that they should not do, because they believe themselves insignificant when they are not. This is a chess match. This is an 8-dimensional chess match. We can only, even the best ones can think about 4 or 5D, which is why we can actually talk about it. But there's higher dimensions to that, going, okay, this piece goes here to do this, to affect the other one, to be able to help and grow. And we all want to be able to help others grow. Actually, all don't want that. There are some that just revel in destruction. Those are the children of the father of lies. Those are the people of destruction, of the adversaries of humanity itself. Why? Because the adversary in that aspect wants to destroy us simply out of jealousy. Why? Because God told the ones that were here when God created the earth to serve us, to help us do the things that us as co-creators were to implement and do here in this reality. But some of them didn't like that, and they decided to do shit that just the Father didn't want them to do. And that's why this is a prison planet. But those are other topics as well. We can get into those in the channel if people are interested. There's my 2 cents, and there's my 20 minutes for today. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon, and peace and love to all.